Hey everyone, Model Man Frank here. Figured I'm gonna continue to do these live sessions even though nobody joins in, but I like talking to y'all, and sometimes you guys don't join in, and it'd be nice to see if I did put out some feelers to find out if this time is okay for going live or not. But I like sharing stories. The first time that I went live, I'll turn the camera here a little bit so you guys can see more of the models, not the whole garage, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm going to continue to do these live sessions and do little videos on different plane subjects and things of that nature, and talk about some of my planes and put out videos, and hopefully whoever sees my community board will check out the little. Sometimes I'm a loss for words. I do apologize for that. Um, I put out a survey. People like the live video chats. If you hit the like and subscribe button and that little bell for notification, you click on that, it'll notify you when I go live. And if 8 o'clock works for y'all, we'll do it 8 o'clock. If not, I can pick a different day. If I'll put out a survey and everybody pick out a day, which is good, and I'll do it on that day. So all that said, of course, my name is Model Man Frank. My name is Frank. And today's subject is, you guys know what plane this is? This little airplane. This is the N9M. Oh, one of my batteries is done. Sorry about that, folks. So yeah, this is the N9M. This was a flying wing built by Jack Northrop to test his design. He wanted to compete his aircraft into the war. It's a very clean design. As you notice, it's got no horizontal stabilizer. It's just a wing. But you can really. This is a little model that I got. I can't remember how I got it. I know it came with a little pedestal and everything like that. And I actually ended up drilling a little hole on the top of it, as you can see, and using it as an ornament for my Christmas tree. I always wanted to build a model of this. So when I found out about outerzone.com.com/UK, I went online and I typed in N9M RC or plans, and I came up with the plans for this aircraft. So somebody, apparently the guy actually worked for Northrop, if I'm remembering the article, and built an actual model of this aircraft. Now, I can't find anything about whether he actually flew the plane. The actual airplane that actually was full size of this N9M, that was built and flew, it had Franklin motors in it. Franklin motors were a little bit unreliable. They leaked like crazy. They were used in some of the early helicopters. The amphibious plane, the CB, were built by Republic, had a Franklin motor in it. Some other airplanes also had Franklin motors. A lot of guys, when Continental came out with their flat 6 or flat 4, people changed out those Franklin motors and put in Continentals, which was just a better aircraft and a better engine design. So yeah, this one had, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember reading correctly, it had Franklin motors in it. I believe they were 6 cylinders or 4 cylinders. I'm not exactly sure, but if you know, please put it in the comment section below. And next time we talk about it, I'll touch base with you. So the original had Franklin motors in it. What eventually happened was the plane was very hard to fly if one of the 2 motors actually stopped working, the plane didn't do so well. It would pitch over very quickly, even though you were trying to fly it back in an opposite direction. Um, some had actual engine problems, and I remember watching the video about it that one actually did crash and the plane just pitched over, and you know, I think it was the YB-49, the jet one that killed uh, Edwards, who actually Edwards Air Force Base is now named after him. Uh, but it killed him. The plane just cartwheeled end over end. It just wiggled and cartwheeled and killed him instantly. And God be with him. And also the N9M pilot who owned the aircraft. Also, when the plane came down, it actually ended up crashing in a jail, and actually hitting this part hit first, and the plane just crumpled in and killed the pilot. But getting back to the RC model, I always wanted to know if somebody actually flew it. Now, I'm thinking that they probably, if was built, if to say I was to build one, I'd have to put a horizontal stabilizer on it, because then I'd have to control the yawing. Because this aircraft, even though it has two propeller-driven motors, it probably yaws back and forth a lot, oscillates. That's why the very first YB-49 had a problem with bombing. The bombing runs, the YB-49 had a the bombardier would actually sit in the plane with his eye on the bombing target, and the plane would actually oscillate back and forth, and he actually got sick while the plane was in flight. He would get airsick because the plane would do this. So it wasn't until computers came around and a lot of fly-by-wire systems came about did they solve that issue. The computer actually takes over the fly-by-wire, the flying of the aircraft, and it helps the pilot keep the aircraft straight on the B-2 bomber. So I'd love to build this plane, but again, I'm the type of person, I like to build things like to scale, and to build this to scale, it just won't work because you have to put like winglets or something like that to keep that plane stabilized. I really would like to see if somebody had actually built a model of it. Now, I've seen models of the Horton 229, which was the German version of this aircraft, was built with jet engines. And I think somebody actually built one and made it fly, but haven't seen anybody try it. I'm probably going to end up trying to build this plane, but I'm going to use foam board. I think foam board will probably be able to make it work. What do y'all think? So stay tuned for this. I'm definitely going to revisit this in the next year. So I'm going to put this up here, back onto something else. So you all know what model this is, right? This is a Corsair model. Matchbox used to make collectibles, the metal collectibles. And my dad bought this one, and he had it on his desk. But it's one of the collectibles he had. I even built him a plastic model. I can't remember what I did with it. I think it started breaking because my nephew started to play with it. So I brought it home and fixed it up, and I can't remember exactly what happened. But Corsair. The Corsair was a great fighter plane, but it had a fatal flaw on landing. It had a tendency that if it was coming in for a landing, this big prop here would actually make the plane roll over. And some actually, it wasn't a very good slope plane. It was great in speed, could outturn most of Japanese Zeros. The Japanese pilots actually were afraid of the aircraft. It was a very challenging plane to fly. You had to have a lot of experience to fly it. I know that the Hellcat also had a couple of fatal flaws in them, but I know this one really did also coming in for a landing, that prop and that the length from where the pilot sat, of course, as pitched up, you really couldn't see over the cowling. But coming in, when the plane was coming in, it would come in and it would land, but you couldn't bring it down to a certain speed. If you did that, the plane would actually oscillate over and it would crash. It would stall. It was easy to stall the aircraft. You really had to keep the throttle in and bring it in as fast as you could. Anybody know why the wings were bent? Anybody? Wings were bent because of the big prop. The prop was very large. The paddles were very big. The Corsair, during the Korean War, had a 4-bladed prop. The World War II versions, a lot of them had just a 3-bladed prop. It wasn't until later on in the war then they come out with a 4-bladed prop, and then into the Korean War. Plane only flew into the Korean War, and then I don't believe it actually made it to Vietnam. It was already jets had already really taken a hold in the Marine Corps by the time Vietnam had shown up. And the only real leftover aircraft, propeller-driven planes that were used in the Korean War as terms of piston fighter aircraft was the A1D, the Sandys, the Sky Raider, A1D Sky Raider. The F4U, great plane, one of those favorite aircraft that we all want to build. Somebody that today was actually flying one up at the field, and he went over into an area that it's got a lot of power lines, and the power lines really got to him. And with those electrical waves coming off, the plane just lost control right into the trees. Luckily enough, he was able to fly again. There was really very little bit of a damage. It wasn't really, there was nothing. The plane just plopped itself into the trees. So, but yeah, pretty challenging aircraft to fly, to say the least. Here's a Hellcat. It's kind of funny with the Hellcat. Not a lot of people, you do see a lot of models of the Hellcat and of the Corsair, but I think to see there's more of the Corsair as RC models than of the Hellcat. Hellcat's a big plane. Look at the size of that. Look at the pilot inside. He was pretty tiny, This also is a Matchbox model. I actually built a couple of models of this in plastic form. Never actually had an RC version, but I do eventually want to get one just because I've always wanted to own an RC version of this airplane. I think it'd be kind of fun to have and do some combat flying with it. Gillows makes a really good kit of this plane. They made a 1/32 scale kit of this aircraft in wooden form. And I remember seeing it in the hobby shop hanging from the ceiling. The guy that owned the hobby shop in Connecticut, he actually made one. The Koskov Hobbies, it was called. Actually built one of these and really did a fantastic job with the plane. Really made it look really, really pretty. This one, the tailplane is all messed up. That doesn't look too straight to you, does it? No, it doesn't. Looks like it almost got sat on or something like that. I just noticed that now. I was like looking at it, like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. I think, oh yeah, it broke it off. I guess I'll have to glue that back on. Sorry. That's not supposed to happen like that. So, talk about some airplanes, planes I'm building. So if you guys look over my shoulder, I've got the Bird of Time. Went up to the glider field this past Memorial Day today, and the field was a bit windy. The weather report had said it was going to be 12-mile-an-hour winds and just very light wind, but we saw some gusts blowing at 15 to 17 mile an hour gusts. So the only one I flew was this one here, this one right here. Sorry, a ASW, the SDZ, the Arrow is SDZ. Funny enough about that airplane, it does pretty well flying in glider form. It doesn't catch thermals that great. It is it's a beginner style glider. If you really want to get into gliding and learning a little bit more about how gliders work and how how to really stay aloft pretty high, good plane to fly. It's not really for the beginner, maybe for an intermediate person that's just wanting to get into it for the first time. It's aileron and rudder. I do find I made a video, and Fat Guy Flies RC. He was the one that I actually got this plane from Fat Guy Flies RC. If you haven't seen Fat Guy Flies RC, check out his videos. He puts out a lot of reviews on RC planes. He does a great job doing it, and he's a really stand-up guy. He flies at the same field I do. Sorry, let's get this a little bit like that. He flies at the same field that I do, and he's really a really nice guy. But he had that plane, and he actually ended up crashing the plane. I guess the wingtip broke off. I don't know. I've never seen the video of that, but I think there's a video of it coming in. I noticed that when the plane comes to a slowdown, when you're coming in to flare it, to slow it down, it has a wing stall. So the wingtip will actually stall, and the plane will actually spiral. If you do a tight turn, or you're just, I noticed that it does a spiral. It will spiral out of control. So what I've started to do is when I'm flying it, I'll fly, and I'll put a little, if I'm making, let's say, a right-hand turn, I'll put a little left rudder in as I'm turning, just a slight bend as I'm turning, just to keep the aircraft stable. And I don't try and turn it very tightly. So it's a little bit of a fine tuning when you're flying that plane. But it is a good plane to fly. It has a lot of power. I fly it with a S3 battery, with a 3-cell, 2200 or an 1800, depending on what I have. And I'll fly it with that. And it's got a lot of punch. It'll take off. It'll get really high up. Probably about, you put it up as high as you want. With a blue sky, it's white. And if you have good eyesight, which, I technically do, you can see it. Bird of Time. I did not get to fly the Bird of Time. Tomorrow I'll take the Bird of Time with me. I got some things I have to do up at the field anyways. But I'll fly Bird of Time tomorrow. I flew my Vista glider. The Vista glider flew great. Always flies a good plane. But again, being that it was windy, 17 miles an hour gust, it was hard to fly. So about 10 o'clock, 10:30, I decided to get out of there and head home. Cowling for one of my Corsairs. I have a Corsair, a Sterling model Corsair, which is the old Sterling kit. It's the first time I actually put together or glue together a vacuum form Corsair cowling. It'll be an electric model. I am going to make copies of the trace out each former as I'm building the aircraft, so I can always make sure that I have extras. And this is also, here is the canopy for the Corsair also. That's the canopy. So somebody was at our field. I don't know what it's like at your field. Maybe if you guys are into model airplanes or anything like that, and you get into RCs, or if you're into RCs and you got an RC field, you should have your club. If your club has a clubhouse, we sometimes, what we do is we have other some guys that donate their models and they sell them off. And we also got some people that they pass away, and the wife is left with a bunch of model airplanes. We also sell them off and try and collect some money for the family. to fill in. Here's something I want to talk to you about: buying RC planes. And if you were the type of person that bought a lot of them, you had a stash. Why do you continue to have the stash? Why do you continue to hold on to wooden planes you haven't built yet? Why not build the plane? Or pass it along to somebody that will build the plane. And don't sell it for like these kit prices that I've noticed on eBay. You go on eBay and there's some kits that are like, they don't build them anymore. They're asking prices that are like retail prices. They don't build a kit anymore. Why are you trying to sell it at retail? Just pass the kit on. You can even go on Outer Zone and print some of these plans. Print some of these plans out and build the plane yourself. And then you get upset because no one wants to buy your plane. Pass it along. If you know you're not, with the amount of kits that you have in your collection, it is a collection. You got more balls of wood, that's collecting dust. Just build the plane and move on. Fly the plane. That's what they were meant for. That's what they were built for. There's really no reason to hold on to this stuff. And I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that subject. But, model airplanes, RC model airplanes, the boxes were built so people would fly them and enjoy them. Then do so. Don't hold on to it until you die, because guess what? You can't take it with you. Okay? Your family's going to be left with a bunch of wood that's going to have probably bugs in it, and it's not going to be worth anything. If you're going to get out of the hobby, don't try and get what you had in the hobby. Just sell off what you have at a reasonable price that somebody else can afford and move on. Just do it that way. You really don't need to try and recoup what you sold. It's not a house. You're not trying to recoup what you sold, what you bought it for. It's a hobby. And bring somebody else into it. Bring some young person into it and show them what's so great about the hobby. Don't try and you're not going to recoup. There's people that I walk into all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I bought it for $300. I want to get the $300 back." You're not going to get $300. Model airplanes depreciate in value big time, especially when you banging and you have a couple of crashes. Oh yeah, they depreciate a lot. So my thing is with stop trying to recoup what you bought in for it. If you spent too much on the plane, you spent too much on the airplane. It's a hobby. Enjoy it. So that was one of my rants I really wanted to say to y'all. Still haven't seen anybody join in, but I know you guys are. The last video I put out, there were about 26 of you that actually ended up watching the video. You probably scrolled through really quickly. But that's one of those things about model airplanes that really grinds my gears. Again, I put out if you can and you listen to this video, or you are going to watch the videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. Helps the algorithm show off who I am. Let me know if you like me, talking about airplanes, and if you want to join in on the conversation. I'd like to be able to talk to y'all. I like the first video I put out. I had like 2 or 3 people that actually joined in, and we had a really pretty decent conversation. And I noticed that not a lot of people really do this conversation or live chats about, RC planes and flying and model airplaning. In aviation news, I really don't know much. I know there's a couple of Warbird planes being rebuilt. If you go to warbirdaviation.com, there's the Desert Rat, which is a B-17 that's being rebuilt by a gentleman in, I'm not exactly sure. I know it's somewhere in the Midwest, but he's got it inside a barn, and he's rebuilding the plane, and that's going along pretty well. I think they're always looking for volunteers with that. I know Oshkosh is coming up in August, so 2 more months, and Oshkosh will be here. I believe the Blue Angels are performing at that show. So if you're going to be going to Oshkosh this year, take some really cool video and share it with me. I'll edit it with some music and put it on one of my short feeds. Um, I also put out a questionnaire. If you guys like my short feeds, I like putting them out because I know some people like watching the videos, and I really posted well with music. One gentleman actually said that I had really picked a good piece of music for the F6F Hellcat. I posted it with the Pacific theme song because it was a plane that flew in the Pacific. So yeah, the British actually did fly it also for a while too. I think they called it the Marlin under British. It wasn't known as the Hellcat, the British Hellcat. It was actually known as the Marlin. If I'm not mistaken, if I am mistaken, please again leave a comment and field below and tell me. What else? What else can we talk about? Oh, did anybody see that video posted out? There was a 737, or I think an A319. It looked like a 737 inside, and somebody opened the cargo. I know it was the overwing emergency exit door. The door flew off, and they were flying, and they landed safely. Nobody was injured. I guess or some other people were injured, but yeah, that was a big thing that happened this past week. Airplane crashes. I didn't hear anything. Oh, I do know that it was somewhere in Florida that there was a crash where somebody put the wrong fuel in a plane and they tried to take off, and it didn't end well. Fueling your airplane and going into the right FBO that knows what they're doing, really important. It was a mismanaged fuel order, and the person put the fuel. Turbines are turbines and diesels are diesels. If you don't know what your plane flies at, you need to go back and look at what book it is. If the FBO does not know what it is, they need to do more training. This is a field that a lot of people wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm going to start an FBO. Well, you can have an FBO or a flight school, but you really do have to put a lot more training into it. So with that said, we're rolling on to 8:30 now. It's a 30-minute chat. If you're watching this video after the fact, please leave a comment in the section below. Let me know if you want to come and join us for a live chat and what days are better for you. If Monday nights are not good and you want to do it on the weekends, I can do it Saturday nights, or I can do live chats Sunday nights. If Sunday nights are better for most, let me know. We can do live chats on Sunday nights instead. But more towards the middle of the week, I can't do it because I work. I get off of work at 6 o'clock at night, and by the time I get home, I'm beat tired. I just can't do it. So, but Sunday, Mondays, or Tuesdays, if you guys can do a live chat and you guys want to join in, I really would like to talk to y'all and get your thoughts on what's going on in aviation and model airplanes and in general, and just have a really interesting conversation, and also put it in what you guys like to talk about. I really would like to have a conversation. And this is something that's new. I really haven't seen many people do a live chat where we talk about RC planes. It's mostly manufacturers that are wanting to talk about RC planes, but we can talk about RC planes. We can talk about history. I do read a lot of history. I look at a lot of history magazines, and I do have some history books we can talk about different planes. If I don't know the answer, we'll look it up together. I like looking at books more so than stuff that's on the internet, because the stuff that's in the books is more accurate than the stuff that's on the internet. So unless it's something modern. So, but with that said, that's all I have to say about tonight, and I look forward to hoping to be able to chat with you guys more. I hope to again hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching this video after the fact. But next Monday for now, unless things change, next Monday at 8 o'clock. I hope to see y'all here. Have a good night. Model Man Frank out.